Don't buy that, buy this. This is part of an ongoing series where I talk about whiskeys that I maybe don't necessarily love, and then I'll give you some alternatives that I personally prefer. So it'll be a fun one. I'm Jeff. This is G Whiskey. Stick around. All right, so this kind of video is always fun. I did a video on this same theme a few weeks back and it's done really well. And since I have no integrity and I'm all about those clicks, we're doing a follow-up. This is pretty self-explanatory. For every whiskey that I personally don't buy, I'll give you alternatives that I do. Keep in mind, this is all opinion. It's not science-backed. It's a review channel.
Like what you like.
Now, as usual, I do have a mystery port in my glass today. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video and I'll share with you what that is. Your hint for today is that this is a whiskey I reviewed recently and I was kind of disappointed. I had high hopes for this one. It's from one of my favorite brands, but it didn't really work out. So good luck guessing, and let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into it. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. All right, so we'll kick things off with a brand that does get its fair share of hate online. Personally, I don't love it. I don't think it's great, but I don't hate it either. I think it's fine. I think it's drinkable. What we're talking about here is Bowmore 12. Bowmore is a smoky, peaty whiskey from Islay, and it's a brand that does not command a lot of respect. A lot of that has to do with the presentation. It is artificially colored, it is chill filtered, and it often comes in at lower ABVs. And that's for their affordable core range. A lot of their older offerings tend to be very gimmicky, very expensive. But the thing about this 12 is that the 12-year-old should be what sells you on the brand. And I don't know how many people are convinced by this. I'm sure some are, but personally, I'm not. The thing about Bowmore, though, is that nothing quite tastes like Bowmore. It's a very distinctive house style. So this isn't going to be a one-to-one alternative. It's in the same ballpark, though. So if you want a quality, affordable, smoky, peaty whiskey, I suggest the Legic 10. This one comes in at 46.3% ABV. It's non-chill filtered, it's natural color. This gives us more intensity, it gives us more texture. And like the Bowmore, it's also very characterful. Unlike Bowmore's dry leather and tobacco smoke, this one leans more into like a funky and almost lactic style of smoke, which I know sounds weird, but it is delicious, it works, and I think it's just a much better alternative to the Bowmore 12, and it's in the same price range. So instead of Bowmore 12, Legic 10. Next up, we've got another easy target in the whiskey world. This is a brand that a lot of enthusiasts love to hate. We are a snobby bunch. But since I'm forever the diplomat, I'll say that I do actually like this brand, but they often could try harder. This bottle in particular, it could be a little bit more textured, have a little bit more intensity. What we're talking about here is the Dalmore 12. This whiskey comes in at 40% ABV. It is very artificially colored. It is chill filtered, which is bad enough for a lot of enthusiasts out there. But I think beyond that, there's prices that are too high, there's pomp, there's packaging. I think there's a few things about this brand that do rub people the wrong way. Now, I actually think Dalmore does have great distillate and good cask play, but the 40% ABV is what kills it for me. This lacks intensity, it lacks texture, and the over-the-top coloring is not needed. So instead, I suggest that boutique whiskey company, Speyside 12-year-old. This one gives us the same age statement. It's also sherry cask forward, but I think it's a much more interesting and engaging whiskey to sip on. This one is 46% natural color and non-chill filtered. This was actually my runner-up to Whiskey of the Year last year. I like it that much. I think it's an overlooked gem. Now, this is a mystery malt, meaning we don't know what distillery it comes from, but for me, that doesn't matter. I enjoy it that much, and it scratches the itch for a quality sherried 12-year-old whiskey. I think it does a better job than that Dalmore 12, so I'm going to recommend this one first. That boutique whiskey company, Speyside 12. All right, my next pick is going to be a contentious one because this bottle is considered a legend in the world of whiskey, but a lot of people do feel like in recent years, the quality has dropped. And by a lot of people, I mean me. What we're talking about here is Talisker 10. The 10-year-old is their most famous and their most popular bottle, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the unofficial ambassador for the entire brand. Now, I do want to make it clear, I still like this whiskey. I think it's fine, and I definitely prefer it to the previous entries. I prefer it to Bowmore 12 and Dalmore 12. It's a good whiskey, but it's not as good as it used to be or as good as it should be. A few years back, this had more complexity, more depth, and then they rebranded, and it seems like they didn't just change the aesthetic of the bottle, but the actual formula for the whiskey itself, and it's just not as good. So as an alternative, what I recommend is the Ardnamurchan AD. This bottle also gives us that coastal maritime vibe. It's also gently peated like Talisker. It's within the same price range, but it's also more natural. So natural color, non-chill filter. We get a great texture in there as well. It's a great alternative. Alternatively, if you want something more raw and more powerful, you might want to consider the Torveg Alt Glean. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. This is from another distillery on the Isle of Skye, which is where you find Talisker. This one is far less engineered, like I said, a little bit more rugged. It is more expensive, but another great alternative. And listen, I do want to say I still like Talisker 10. I don't love it, but I do like it, and I think I'll always have a soft spot for it. But nowadays, I do think there are just better alternatives out there. Next up, we've got a very popular whiskey from a very popular brand, but it's one that for me never really cut it. I consider it to be a nice, easy, pleasant, sippable whiskey, but ultimately forgettable. What we've got here is the Balvenie 12 Doublewood. This one does have its fans, and if you like it, great. Remember, this is less about me knocking these bottles and just trying to offer you some interesting alternatives. My alternative for this one is going to be Talisker 14. Now again, not a one-to-one. Talisker does have a different profile. The Talisker is going to be more intense and spicier, but like the Balvenie Doublewood, this one is a mix of bourbon and sherry maturations, and it's also pretty mass appealing. Unlike Balvenie's 40%, this one gives us 46%. It's still a very accessible and easy to like whiskey. It's not doing anything too dramatic, but I think it's a little bit more amped up and interesting than the Balvenie. Talisker 14. Next up, we've got a whiskey that is very popular among enthusiasts, but it's never really been my brand. I've got the Glengoyne 15. I think they have a lot of decent whiskeys, but nothing's really blown me away, and while I think the 15 is fine, I think we've got a better alternative in the Glenfarclas 15. Glengoyne is 43%, Glenfarclas comes in at 46%. I think the Glenfarclas 15 is the best bang for buck option in their core range. It is just a classic, well-made, sherried 15-year-old with a bit of an edge, a bit of an old school twist. This is a bottle that's not so sherry forward that it's just all cask. It's a whiskey that's not over-engineered and mass appealing. It does have a bit of a rugged edge. It's got its own character, and it's just really fun, well done, not too expensive, and I think it's a better option than the Glengoyne, Glenfarclas 15. All right, for our last bottle, we are coming back to Bowmore. Is that because Bowmore is an easy target? Yes. This time we're looking at the 15-year-old Bowmore, and again, I want to stress Bowmore is a very distinctive character. It's impossible to replicate, so it's not a one-to-one, but if you want a sherried, peated 15-year-old that does it, in my opinion, a little bit better, I suggest the Benromic 15, which, like the Bowmore, also comes in at 43%. Now, typically, enthusiasts want a minimum of a 46% ABV. Benromic's still 43%, but I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, this is a whiskey that pretty much gets everything right. I wouldn't change a thing. In fact, I consider it to be one of the best 15-year-olds on the market. Now, where Bowmore leans more into the tobacco and leather notes that I mentioned earlier, the Benromic leans more into kind of like an almost farmy, to some people, funky style of peat that a lot of people compare to Springbank. If you don't know, Springbank is a very popular and sought-after whiskey. That doesn't matter. Now, between these two, not only will Benromic have more of a calmer peat presence, but it's also going to give you much more of a lush and rich sherry, which I prefer. Overall, this gives us more complexity. I consider it to be more interesting with a better character and more balance. I would describe it as simultaneously being very pretty and beautiful and soft and sweet while still having some balls to it. It reminds me of my last trip to Thailand. So if you're looking for a quality 15-year-old whiskey with that peat sherry combo instead of the Bowmore 15, I suggest the Benromic 15. All right, that brings us to the end of our list today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And this is the part where I throw it back to you and I ask you, what are some whiskeys that you felt underwhelmed with? And then offer an alternative to that whiskey that you just think does it better. This might be a bottle with a similar age or price point or flavor profile, but this is the bottle that you're more likely to come back to. Looking forward to reading your comments down below. Now, finally, if you stuck around to find out what the mystery pour here is, like I said, this is a whiskey that I reviewed recently and I was left a little bit disappointed. What I've got in the glass is Oban 15 Cask Strength. This one is a US exclusive. It's one I was really excited to try. It's a new release from this year. I had to ask some friends to help me procure a bottle. They did just that. And unfortunately, it didn't live up to expectations. I find it to be too spicy, harsh, rugged, a little bit off balance. So I'm going to stay within the same brand if you want a better Oban experience, but also cask strength and also sherried. I suggest you check out the 2024 Oban 10-year-old special release. Yes, it is 5 years younger, but it is much more delicious and better composed in my opinion. Or alternately, if you want to go further back and try and ruffle through some old dusties on shelves, if you can find the Oban 10-year-old Space Rabbit from 2022, that one is better still, but either one of those is going to be a step up from this one, which is unfortunate. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will bring us to the end of the video. Thank you very much again for watching. If you want to help out the channel, I've got Patreon and PayPal linked down below. Every little bit helps. Patrons are over here. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.